Beneath the endless blue waves of our planet's oceans lies a world of secrets waiting to be uncovered, a silent graveyard of lost civilizations, forgotten treasures, and relics so mysterious they defy explanation. Think about it, we've explored more of outer space than the depths of our own oceans, and what little we've found has already rewritten history. From the legendary ruins said to belong to Atlantis to eerie artifacts that shouldn't exist, the seafloor holds puzzles that challenge everything we think we know. And today, we're diving deep into 25 of the most baffling discoveries ever pulled from the watery darkness, objects so enigmatic they've left experts scratching their heads for decades. Imagine stumbling upon a centuries-old shipwreck only to find a device that looks eerily out of place, as if it doesn't belong to its time, or uncovering a stone tablet covered in symbols no one can decipher, hinting at a language lost to history. These aren't scenes from a movie, they're real finds that have emerged from the ocean's grasp, each one whispering clues about cultures and technologies we barely understand. Some of these relics suggest ancient civilizations may have been far more advanced than we ever realized, while others point to encounters with the unknown. What ties them all together is the ocean itself, the world's greatest keeper of secrets, never giving up its mysteries easily. This journey isn't just about listing artifacts, it's about unraveling the stories they tell. Who created them? How did they end up submerged beneath thousands of feet of water? And why do some of these objects seem to defy the very timeline of human history? From inexplicable metallic spheres resting in the abyss to sunken temples adorned with carvings of beings that don't match any known mythology, we're about to explore discoveries that blur the line between legend and reality. So, if you're ready to venture into the unknown, to question what you've been taught, and to witness the strange and awe-inspiring relics hidden beneath the waves, let's begin. The ocean's deepest enigmas are waiting. In 1901, sponge divers exploring the waters off the tiny Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon something that would rewrite history, a corroded bronze lump resting among the ruins of a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable, just another artifact lost to time. But when researchers painstakingly cleaned and examined it, they uncovered an astonishing secret, a complex system of interlocking gears, dials, and inscriptions, all precision engineered with a sophistication that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a device so advanced it's often called the world's first analog computer. The intricacy of its design is mind-bending. Tiny gear teeth, some just a millimeter wide, fit together with mathematical precision, tracking the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with eerie accuracy. It could predict eclipses decades in advance and even accounted for irregularities in the moon's orbit, a feat of engineering that wouldn't be matched for over 1,000 years. But here's the mystery: who built it and why? Some scholars believe it was the work of legendary Greek inventors like Archimedes or Hipparchus, while others argue it hints at lost knowledge from even earlier civilizations. What's even more fascinating are the debates about its purpose. Was it a navigational tool for ancient mariners, an elaborate astronomical clock, or perhaps a device used in rituals to align with celestial events? The truth might be all of the above. The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. If something this advanced was on a ship 2 millennia ago, what other marvels have been lost to the depths? It's a humbling reminder that history is rarely as simple as we imagine, and that the ocean still guards secrets capable of shattering our assumptions. The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just belong to the past, it sparked a modern revolution. For decades, scientists and engineers have painstakingly tried to recreate this ancient marvel, using everything from traditional hand tools to cutting-edge computer modeling. In 2006, a team of researchers combined high-resolution X-ray scanning with three-dimensional imaging to peer inside the corroded fragments, revealing hidden gears and inscriptions no one had seen for 2,000 years. Their reconstruction showed just how ahead of its time this device truly was, a celestial calculator, so precise it could chart the erratic dance of the moon across the sky, accounting for subtle gravitational wobbles that wouldn't be formally described until the 17th century. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The mechanism's design principles have inspired contemporary engineers, bridging the gap between ancient craftsmanship and modern technology. Some of its gear ratios mirror those used in early clocks during the Middle Ages, suggesting its influence may have indirectly shaped the development of mechanical timekeeping. Universities now use replicas of the Antikythera Mechanism to teach students about the interconnectedness of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering, proving that even in the digital age, there's profound value in studying analog ingenuity. Yet the most compelling question remains: how did ancient Greeks, without the tools we take for granted today, achieve such precision? The device's gears were hand-cut from bronze, their teeth spaced with near-perfect consistency, a feat requiring an understanding of prime numbers and cyclic patterns that textbooks once claimed didn't exist in that era. This isn't just a relic, it's a challenge to our historical timeline, a whisper that perhaps other advanced technologies were lost to the sea or simply forgotten. Today, as we send probes to Mars and decode quantum physics, the Antikythera Mechanism humbles us. It forces scientists to confront gaps in the historical record and reconsider how innovation spreads or disappears. Every recreation attempt deepens the mystery, revealing new layers of sophistication. What if this device wasn't unique? What if it was just one surviving fragment of a much broader tradition of ancient engineering? The ocean claimed the answers long ago, but the questions it left behind continue to propel discovery, reminding us that history's greatest breakthroughs might still be buried beneath the waves. Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a site that has sparked fierce debate among archaeologists and geologists for decades. A sprawling underwater structure so massive and geometrically precise that some believe it could be the ruins of a lost civilization. Known as the Yonaguni Monument, this enigmatic formation stretches over 200 feet long with towering terraces, sharp right angles, and what appear to be staircases carved into the rock. At first glance, it looks unmistakably man-made, like the remnants of an ancient pyramid or temple swallowed by the sea. But the truth might be far more complicated. Diving into the waters around Yonaguni feels like stepping into a forgotten world. The monument's most striking feature is its monolithic terrace, a flat, elevated platform with edges so straight they defy the randomness of nature. Nearby, two massive pillars stand like sentinels, and a winding path cuts through the rock, almost as if designed for ceremonial processions. Even more tantalizing are the carvings some researchers claim to have found, symbols resembling ancient scripts and what could be stylized animal figures. If human hands shaped this site, it would rewrite the timeline of Pacific civilizations, suggesting a sophisticated culture thrived here over 10,000 years ago, long before recorded history. But not everyone is convinced. Skeptics argue that the Yonaguni Monument is a masterpiece of natural erosion, sculpted by powerful ocean currents and seismic activity. They point to the region's unique sandstone, which fractures in clean, geometric patterns, creating the illusion of deliberate design. Geologists have documented similar formations above water, where wind and rain carve uncannily straight lines into cliffs. Even the staircase could be explained by tectonic shifts, with layers of rock shearing off at uniform intervals. So where does the truth lie? Some researchers propose a middle ground, that the monument began as a natural formation, later modified by humans. Ancient civilizations often repurposed striking landforms for ritual or practical purposes. and Yonaguni's location near thriving marine life would have made it a strategic site for fishing or worship. Dive teams have recovered no definitive artifacts like pottery or tools, but the absence of evidence isn't always evidence of absence. The sea erases as much as it preserves, and time may have scattered any clues. What makes Yonaguni so compelling is how it blurs the line between geology and archaeology. Whether natural, man-made, or something in between, it challenges us to reconsider the capabilities of ancient societies and the forces that shape our world. If nature alone created this marvel, it's a testament to Earth's artistry. If human hands played a role, it's a ghostly echo of a culture lost to rising seas. Either way, the monument stands as a silent question, daring us to unravel its origins. And until we do, it remains one of the ocean's most captivating enigmas. Deep in the turquoise waters off the coast of modern-day Turkey lies a time capsule from the Bronze Age, the Uluburun shipwreck, a vessel so laden with treasures it's been called the richest archaeological find of its kind. Discovered by a sponge diver in 1982 near the town of Kos, this 3,000-year-old wreck wasn't just carrying cargo. It was transporting a vivid snapshot of an interconnected ancient world. The ship's hull, long since dissolved by centuries of seawater, left behind a staggering array of goods, gleaming gold chalices, meticulously crafted ivory carvings, aromatic resins still fragrant after millennia, and ingots of copper and tin, the raw materials of civilization itself. What makes Uluburun extraordinary isn't just the wealth of its cargo, but the story it tells about a globe-spanning trade network. Analysis of the ship's contents reveals goods from at least 7 different cultures spanning from the Baltic to the Nile. Cypriot copper, Mycenaean pottery, Egyptian ebony, and even amber from as far north as Scandinavia, all packed tightly into a single vessel. This wasn't just commerce, it was diplomacy in motion. The presence of luxury items like a gold scarab inscribed with the name of Nefertiti suggests the ship might have carried royal gifts, hinting at alliances between powerful Bronze Age kingdoms. One of the most revealing finds was the ship's cargo of raw materials, 10 tons of copper ingots shaped like ox hides for easy transport, and a smaller stash of tin, the precise ratio needed to produce bronze. This discovery gave archaeologists a blueprint for understanding how ancient metallurgy fueled empires. The ship's route, pieced together from its diverse cargo, paints a picture of a maritime superhighway with stops in ports from Sardinia to the Levant. It's proof that 3,000 years ago, the Mediterranean wasn't a barrier. It was a bridge, but the real treasure of Uluburun might be the human stories hidden in its artifacts. A collection of delicate glass beads, likely from Mesopotamia, shows how far luxury goods traveled. A set of balance scales with carefully marked weights speaks to the precision of ancient merchants. Even personal items, a wooden writing tablet, a sailor's fishing gear whisper about the lives of those on board. This wasn't just a ship, it was a floating microcosm of the late Bronze Age, a time when kingdoms rose and fell on the strength of their trade networks. The wreck's significance goes beyond its glittering artifacts. Its sinking around 1300 BC coincides with the collapse of several Bronze Age civilizations, a period of turmoil that reshaped the ancient world. Some scholars speculate that disruptions to trade routes like Uluburun's might have contributed to this collapse, making the ship a poignant symbol of both connection and fragility. Every artifact pulled from the seabed adds another piece to the puzzle, helping us understand how our ancestors built a globalized world long before the term existed. The ocean didn't just preserve a shipwreck, it saved a chapter of human ambition, written in gold, ivory, and the relentless tide of commerce. In the icy depths of the Baltic Sea, a sonar image sent shockwaves through the scientific community, a massive, disc-shaped object resting on the seafloor, its unnatural symmetry defying easy explanation. Discovered in 2011 by a Swedish diving team exploring a shipwreck, this eerie formation quickly became known as the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Stretching nearly 200 feet across with a structure resembling the iconic silhouette of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, the anomaly sits nearly 300 feet below the surface. Some dismissed it as a trick of sonar distortion, while others saw hints of something far stranger, perhaps even evidence of an ancient UFO crash or a long-lost Atlantean technology. The truth, as divers who have braved those frigid waters can attest, is even more puzzling up close. Diving teams who have inspected the anomaly describe surfaces unnaturally smooth for seabed geology, with sharp 90-degree angles and what appear to be stair-like formations leading to a dark central depression. Even more baffling are reports of electronic equipment malfunctioning near the structure, a detail that fueled wild theories about submerged alien technology emitting electromagnetic interference. But geologists have countered with their own explanations, pointing to glacial deposits left behind by retreating ice sheets during the last ice age. These formations, known as glacial erratics, can take on bizarre shapes when sculpted by millennia of underwater currents. Samples retrieved from the site revealed basaltic rock, suggesting a possible volcanic origin. Yet the mystery deepens. Independent researchers analyzing sonar data noted that the anomaly casts a strange, cylindrical shadow, something not typical for natural formations. And then there's the circular track-like mark stretching nearly 1,000 feet behind it, as if the object skidded across the seabed before coming to rest. Could this be the scar left by an impact or merely the work of deep-sea currents? Scientists remain divided. Some argue it's a rare but entirely natural geological formation, while others insist its features warrant further investigation. Until a full-scale excavation is possible, a costly and complex endeavor in those treacherous waters, the Baltic Sea Anomaly will continue to hover between the realms of natural wonder and unsolved enigma. Whether the product of Earth's hidden forces or something more extraordinary, it stands as a stark reminder that our oceans still hold wonders we can't yet explain. Just off the coast of modern Alexandria, where the Mediterranean's waves lap against Egypt's bustling shoreline, lies a silent, submerged kingdom, one that once glittered with the wealth and power of Cleopatra's reign. Known as the Sunken City of Alexandria, this sprawling underwater metropolis is a time capsule from the Ptolemaic era, where sphinxes still guard forgotten temples and colossal statues of gods and pharaohs rest eerily intact on the seafloor. Discovered in the late 1990s by a team led by French archaeologist Frank Gaudiot, the site is often called the Underwater Louvre for its staggering collection of artifacts. But how did an entire district of one of antiquity's greatest cities vanish beneath the waves? The answer lies in a perfect storm of natural disasters and human ambition. The city's downfall began with a series of devastating earthquakes, some as recent as the 8th century, that sent entire neighborhoods sliding into the Mediterranean. The soft clay beneath Alexandria's foundations liquefied during the tremors, collapsing harbor walls and dragging monuments like Cleopatra's Palace and the Temple of Isis into the depths. But the sea didn't just claim these structures, it preserved them. Unlike land-based ruins, which were often plundered or repurposed over centuries, Alexandria's sunken treasures lay untouched, encased in layers of sediment that shielded them from erosion and saltwater decay. Diving into this underwater realm feels like stepping into a dream. Towering granite columns, some still standing upright, frame avenues that once bustled with merchants and scholars. A 13-foot-tall statue of Hapi, the Nile god, lies half buried in the sand, his serene expression untouched by time. Nearby, a sphinx with the face of Ptolemy Roman XII, Cleopatra's father, gazes mutely toward the surface as if waiting for the city to rise again. The most poignant find might be a massive stone block inscribed with Greek and Egyptian hieroglyphs, proof of the cultural fusion that defined Ptolemaic rule. What makes Alexandria's sunken city so extraordinary isn't just its scale, but the way it challenges our understanding of ancient engineering. The temples and palaces were built on a network of artificial islands and causeways, a testament to the Ptolemaic king's ambition to rival the wonders of pharaonic Egypt. Recent excavations have even uncovered shipwrecks laden with coins and pottery, suggesting the harbor was a hub of commerce until the very moment disaster struck. Today, marine archaeologists face a race against time to document the site before currents and pollution erase its fragile remains. Using advanced 3D mapping technology, teams have created digital reconstructions of the city in its prime, offering glimpses of how its grand courtyards and colonnades might have looked. But every dive reveals new mysteries, like the puzzling absence of Cleopatra's famed tomb, which some believe might still lie hidden beneath centuries of silt. The sunken city of Alexandria is more than a relic. It's a mirror reflecting the fragility of human achievement. It thrived as a center of knowledge and power, only to be reclaimed by the sea. Yet in its silent halls, we find echoes of a world where Greek philosophers debated in shadowed porticos, where queens held court above bustling harbors, and where the Mediterranean wasn't just a boundary, it was the heartbeat of a civilization. As archaeologists continue to piece together its story, each artifact whispers the same haunting question: what else lies buried beneath the waves, waiting to rewrite history? Along the sun-baked shores of Tamil Nadu, India, the Bay of Bengal guards one of archaeology's most dramatic revelations: the Mahabalipuram Shore Temple, a 7th century masterpiece of Hindu architecture that was once thought to be just one of 7 legendary pagodas described by mariners. For centuries, locals spoke of 6 other temples swallowed by the sea, their spires lost beneath the waves. Then, in 2004, a catastrophic tsunami struck the coast, and as the water receded, it unveiled something extraordinary: the outlines of ancient structures buried in the sand, along with scattered stone carvings and fragments of walls. The ocean, in its fury, had momentarily lifted the veil on a myth, revealing that the stories might have been true all along. Divers exploring the site after the tsunami discovered rows of submerged boulders, perfectly aligned as if part of a grand foundation. Intricate carvings of lions and deities lay half-buried in the seabed, their craftsmanship matching the shore temple's surviving artwork. Geological surveys confirmed these weren't random formations. They were the remains of a vast temple complex, likely destroyed by rising sea levels over 1,000 years ago. The discovery gave weight to local flood myths, tales of a vengeful ocean punishing the pride of kings by drowning their greatest creations. Today, the shore temple stands as a solitary sentinel, its surviving towers etched with scenes from Hindu epics, a silent witness to the power of both human devotion and nature's relentless tide. Nearly 1,000 miles northwest, another submerged wonder whispers of a civilization even more ancient: the lost city of Dwarka, said to have been the legendary kingdom of Lord Krishna. According to sacred texts like the Mahabharata, Dwarka was a marvel of gold-topped towers and bustling harbors until the sea swallowed it whole after Krishna's death. For generations, scholars dismissed the story as pure allegory until marine archaeologists began probing the waters off modern Gujarat. What they found stunned them: a grid of stone walls, pottery shards dating back 3,500 years, and even ancient anchors, all lying beneath 60 feet of water. The underwater ruins of Dwarka don't just match descriptions from scripture. They paint a picture of a thriving port city suddenly abandoned. Sediment cores reveal evidence of a massive tsunami or sudden sea level rise around 1500 BCE, a cataclysm that could have inspired the mythic flood narratives. Among the most striking finds are a stone slab carved with a 3-headed serpent, a symbol closely associated with Krishna, and a submerged structure resembling a temple's foundation, its stones precisely fitted without mortar. These discoveries bridge archaeology and mythology, suggesting that oral traditions might preserve echoes of real historical disasters. What ties Mahabalipuram and Dwarka together isn't just their watery graves, it's how they challenge our understanding of cultural memory. Both sites show how ancient societies encoded catastrophic events into stories, passing down warnings across generations. The ocean, which erased these cities, also preserved their legacies in ways land-based ruins rarely do. As rising seas threaten modern coastlines, these submerged relics take on new urgency, reminding us that the boundary between land and water has always been fragile, and that myths often hold truths waiting to be uncovered by the tides. In 1857, the SS Central America, a side-wheel steamer known as the Ship of Gold, vanished into a hurricane off the Carolina coast, taking with it an unimaginable fortune. Over 3 tons of freshly minted California gold, along with the lives of 425 passengers and crew. For over a century, the wreck lay undisturbed 2,000 feet below the surface, its exact location a mystery whispered among treasure hunters. Then, in 1988, a team led by engineer Tommy Thompson finally pinpointed the wreckage using cutting-edge robotics and sonar technology. What they pulled from the abyss wasn't just treasure, it was a time capsule of America's feverish gold rush era, and its recovery would ignite one of the most contentious legal battles in maritime history. The scale of the find was staggering: over 7,000 gold coins, many freshly minted in San Francisco and never circulated, hundreds of gold ingots, some still bearing the smelter's marks of legendary assayers like Kellogg and Humbert. Personal treasures too, a passenger's engraved pocket watch frozen at the moment the ship went down, a lady's gold brooch clutched in the remains of her luggage. But beyond the glitter, this haul held a darker revelation. The SS Central America's cargo was directly tied to the financial panic of 1857, a crisis that nearly collapsed the U.S. economy. Historians had long suspected the lost gold played a role, but the ship's recovery proved it. Here's why it mattered. In the 1850s, California's gold was the backbone of America's monetary system, shipped east to back loans and stabilize banks. When the SS Central America sank, it took with it nearly 20% of New York's gold reserves overnight. The sudden shortage triggered a credit crunch, causing hundreds of banks to fail and businesses to collapse. The wreck's recovered ledgers and bank drafts showed desperate financiers pleading for shipments that never arrived, proof that a single storm at sea could spiral into national disaster. But the treasure's modern-day saga was just as dramatic. Thompson's team faced lawsuits from insurers who'd paid claims on the gold a century earlier, and from crew members who accused him of hiding proceeds. The legal battles dragged on for decades, with artifacts auctioned for millions while courts debated who rightfully owned history. The case redefined maritime salvage law, setting precedents for how abandoned wrecks are treated. Today, the SS Central America's gold is studied as much for its economic impact as its craftsmanship. Numismatists pore over the coins, tracing dye varieties that reveal the frenzied pace of San Francisco's mint operations. Historians analyze ingots to track gold's journey from Sierra Nevada mines to Wall Street vaults, and legal scholars still cite the case as a cautionary tale of how treasure, and the secrets it carries, can divide as fiercely as it dazzles. The ocean didn't just claim the ship of gold. It preserved a pivotal moment when America's fortune literally sank, taking its dreams and its financial stability down with it. Rising from the turquoise waters of Micronesia like the skeleton of a drowned city, the ruins of Nan Madol stretch across 92 artificial islands, a labyrinth of basalt columns and canals so haunting it's earned the nickname the Venice of the Pacific. Built between 1200 and 1500 CE, this megalithic marvel defies logic. Its buildings constructed from massive volcanic stones, some weighing up to 50 tons, stacked without mortar atop fragile coral reefs. How did ancient islanders achieve such a feat without pulleys, metal tools, or even wheels? The answer remains one of archaeology's greatest puzzles: tangled with legends of sorcerer kings and whispered tales of supernatural aid. At the heart of Nan Madol's mystery is its construction. The site's towering walls are made of prismatic basalt, a volcanic rock that naturally fractures into geometric columns. But quarrying these stones required precision. Workers would heat the rock with fire, then douse it with seawater to split clean slabs, a technique seen in other Pacific cultures. The real enigma is transport. The nearest basalt quarry lies on the opposite side of Pohnpei Island, meaning these multi-ton stones were somehow moved 12 miles through dense jungle and choppy ocean channels. Oral traditions speak of magic of a twin brothers spell that made the stones fly to their destination. Modern researchers propose log rollers or bamboo rafts, but no evidence of such infrastructure survives. Nan Madol wasn't just a city, it was a theater of power. The ruling Sordalor dynasty, said to wield dark magic, centralized their control here, demanding tribute from outer islands. The largest structure, Nan Daowas, served as a royal tomb, its 25-foot walls engineered to withstand typhoons. Narrow canals funneled tidal currents, possibly serving as a natural security system or a ritual pathway for sacred ceremonies. Local lore warns of restless spirits guarding the ruins, and even today, some Pohnpeians avoid the site at night, fearing the ancestral curses said to linger in its moss-covered stones. The abandonment of Nan Madol adds another layer of intrigue. Around 1600 CE, the Sordalor dynasty collapsed, overthrown by invaders or perhaps internal revolt. Climate studies suggest rising sea levels may have flooded the canals, turning the city's engineered waterways into a death trap of stagnant pools ripe for disease. Unlike other ruins reclaimed by jungle, Nan Madol's saltwater environment preserved unique artifacts, ceremonial shell jewelry, intricate pottery, and even traces of a once thriving aquaculture system. What fascinates archaeologists most is the sheer audacity of its builders. Nan Madol's coral foundations should have crumbled under the weight of its stones, yet the structures still stand. Recent scans reveal a hidden network of submerged basalt stabilizing the reefs, an ancient answer to modern engineering. This wasn't just a city, it was a declaration of human ingenuity, a defiance of natural limits. Whether through sorcery, slave labor, or lost technology, Nan Madol remains a testament to the Pacific's forgotten genius, its secrets as submerged as the channels that weave between its ruins. When we think of the Titanic, our minds fill with images of grand staircases, opulent chandeliers, and an iceberg's fatal kiss, but few know about the strange and storied treasures that sank with her. Among the first-class luggage and crates of fine china lay artifacts wrapped in legends far older than the ship itself, objects rumored to carry curses as deep as the ocean floor. One of the most chilling, a mummified priestess of Ammon, her ornate coffin said to be inscribed with a warning: "Death comes on swift wings to those who disturb the sleep of the gods." The artifact wasn't just cargo, it was part of a private collection owned by wealthy antiquarian William Stead, who reportedly joked about the cursed days before boarding. He never reached New York. The mummy's coffin wasn't alone in its eerie reputation. Tucked away in the ship's hold were crates of Australian opals, their fiery colors shimmering like captured lightning. In gemology circles, opals have long been called the stone of bad luck, a superstition dating back to medieval Europe, where their shifting hues were thought to bring misfortune unless set in gold. Many of the Titanic's opals were destined for jewelers in New York, but the sea kept them. Survivors later recounted whispers among the crew about a cursed voyage, fueled by the presence of these controversial gems. Perhaps the most haunting relic, though, was a rare book bound in human skin, a macabre volume from the library of another passenger, real estate tycoon Harry Elkin's Widener. The grisly binding, taken from a medieval monk's remains, was considered a dark curiosity among collectors. Widener, an avid bibliophile, had acquired it during a European tour, unaware he'd be entombed with it. His mother later funded Harvard's Widener Library in his memory, but the book itself, like so many oddities aboard the Titanic, remains suspended in the abyss, its pages forever closed. These artifacts raise a spine-tingling question. Was the Titanic's doom simply tragic chance, or did the weight of these cursed objects tip fate's scales? Historians dismiss the idea, but the stories persist. Salvagers who have explored the wreck report an unsettling silence around certain debris fields, as if the ocean itself hesitates to disturb them. Whether myth or coincidence, these relics remind us that the Titanic story isn't just about a ship, it's about the secrets she swallowed, the whispers of the past that still ripple through the dark water. Beneath the shifting sands of the Mediterranean, just off the coast of modern-day Egypt, lies the sunken city of Thonis Heracleon, a once thriving port that vanished beneath the waves over 1,000 years ago. Among its most breathtaking discoveries are the colossal statues that still stand sentinel on the seafloor, frozen in time. These towering figures, some weighing over 16 tons, depict a mesmerizing blend of Egyptian pharaohs and Greek gods, their features eerily preserved by the very water that claimed them. When marine archaeologist Frank Godio's team first uncovered these giants in 2000, they stirred more than sediment. They unveiled a cultural crossroads where two ancient worlds collided and merged. The most striking of these statues is a monumental depiction of Hapi, the Egyptian god of the Nile's annual flood. Carved from red granite, his towering form once welcomed ships to Heracleon's bustling harbor, his symbolic fertility echoing the city's reliance on maritime trade. Nearby, a slightly smaller but no less imposing statue of a Ptolemaic queen, likely Cleopatra Roman II or Roman III, wears the dual crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, her face bearing the delicate Hellenistic features favored by the Greek rulers who governed Egypt after Alexander the Great. The statue's coexistence speaks volumes. This was a city where Egyptian tradition and Greek influence weren't at odds but intertwined. What's astonishing isn't just their size but their survival. Salt water, often a destroyer of artifacts, became these statues' unlikely protector. The dense, oxygen-poor seabed sediment encased them like a time capsule, shielding their surfaces from erosion and even preserving traces of original paint. Gold leaf that once adorned ceremonial headdresses left chemical signatures in the surrounding clay, allowing researchers to reconstruct their long-faded grandeur. One statue of the god Osiris, recovered in near-perfect condition, still bears the intricate hieroglyphs carved into its base, a prayer for safe passage translated as, "May the river's breath guide you home." But these relics are more than art, they're historical ledgers. The statue's hybrid styles, Egyptian deities with Greek hairstyles, pharaohs depicted with Macedonian armor, mirror the pragmatic diplomacy of the Ptolemaic era. Rulers like Ptolemy understood that to govern Egypt they had to become Egyptian, adopting local customs while infusing them with Hellenistic ideals. Heracleon's harbor statues were propaganda in stone, assuring merchants from across the Mediterranean that this was a place where traditions could coexist. Recent dives have revealed even deeper layers to the mystery. One fragmentary statue base mentions a festival of the drowning, a previously unknown ceremony where these very statues may have been ritually submerged, symbolizing the Nile's life-giving floods. Another discovery, a smaller statue of the Greek god Hermes, his caduceus entwined with an Egyptian ankh, suggests religious syncretism ran deeper than scholars imagined. The statues of Thonis Heracleon don't just stand as relics of a drowned city. They're portals to a moment when cultures fused, when gods changed faces, and when the Mediterranean wasn't a boundary but a bridge. As conservators painstakingly stabilize these salt-crusted giants for museums, they're not just preserving stone, they're resurrecting a dialogue between civilizations, one that began over 2 millennia ago and was silenced until now by the sea. In the deep waters off Cuba's western coast, a sonar sweep in 2001 revealed something that shouldn't exist: a series of geometric formations stretching over 20 square kilometers, their straight lines and right angles unmistakably reminiscent of urban planning. Dubbed the Cuban underwater city, these submerged structures lie nearly 2,000 feet below the surface, a depth that, if proven artificial, would rewrite our understanding of ancient civilizations in the Americas. The discovery ignited fierce debate. Were these the ruins of an unknown culture lost to rising seas, or simply the handiwork of nature's patient sculpting? The most compelling evidence comes from the site's symmetry. Sonar images show what appear to be massive stone blocks, some measuring up to 15 feet across, arranged in concentric circles and linear formations resembling plazas or pyramids. Explorers using remotely operated vehicles reported smooth surfaces and joint-like connections between stone's features rarely seen in natural geology. Even more intriguing are the mathematical proportions detected in the layout, with spacing between structures following patterns seen in ancient Mesoamerican cities like Teotihuacan. Geologists counter that the formations could be an unusually regular example of fractured sandstone, shaped by tectonic activity over millennia. Supporting the man-made theory is the site's eerie proximity to known maritime trade routes used by pre-Columbian cultures like the Maya, who told legends of a great flood swallowing coastal cities. Independent researchers point to carvings found on nearby Cuban shores depicting towers beneath waves' oral histories, perhaps memorializing this very catastrophe. Skeptics, however, highlight the absence of definitive artifacts like pottery or tools, arguing that any civilization capable of constructing at such depths would have left clearer traces of habitation. Recent advances in underwater archaeology may finally settle the debate. High-resolution submersibles have identified what could be inscriptions on some stones, though the thick layer of marine sediment makes confirmation difficult. Meanwhile, core samples reveal the area was above sea level roughly 12,000 years ago, placing it within the time frame of hypothetical advanced societies like Atlantis, a term scientists avoid but that captures public imagination. The Cuban government, cautious about sensationalism, has allowed limited exploration, treating the site as a potential cultural treasure while awaiting irrefutable proof. Whether the work of human hands or geological chance, the Cuban formations compel us to reconsider how much of our past might be hidden by rising oceans. They stand as a humbling reminder that Earth's memory is far longer than ours, and that the line between myth and history often lies buried beneath the tides. Until divers retrieve an unequivocal artifact, a tool, a glyph, a fragment of writing, this underwater enigma will continue to straddle the border between discovery and mystery, challenging us to keep searching. Stretching across what is now the North Sea, the vast plains of Doggerland once connected Britain to mainland Europe, a thriving landscape of forests, rivers, and human settlements before rising seas swallowed it whole around 6,500 years ago. Today, fishermen trawling these shallow waters occasionally haul up more than just fish. Flint tools, bone harpoons, and even carved amber pendants emerge from the silt, relics of a lost world that archaeologists call Europe's own Atlantis. These artifacts, often overlooked in favor of flashier treasures, tell a quiet but profound story. A finely crafted Mesolithic hunting spear, its tip still sharp after millennia underwater, whispers of the resourcefulness required to survive in this post-Ice Age Eden. A fragment of a wooden dugout canoe preserved by the sea's cold embrace hints at how these early people navigated the wetlands that would one day drown them. What makes Doggerland's artifacts so remarkable is their mundanity. They're not gold-laden treasures, but the everyday tools of a society in harmony with its environment. Archaeologists piecing together these finds paint a picture of seasonal migration, with families following herds of reindeer across the grassy plains. But there's a haunting duality to these discoveries. A child's toy carved from deer antlers speaks of domestic life, while a skull fragment with signs of violent trauma reminds us that survival here was never guaranteed. These objects are time capsules from a pivotal moment when humans first shifted from nomadic hunting to settled communities, a transition abruptly cut short by climate change's relentless tide. Half a world away, the Bahamas Bimini Road offers a stark contrast, a formation that sparks debate precisely because it refuses to be ordinary. Discovered in 1968 off the coast of North Bimini, this 1,000-foot line of rectangular limestone blocks lies in water shallow enough to snorkel. Its near-perfect 90-degree angles and seemingly deliberate placement have led some to declare it a remnant of Atlantis, citing Plato's description of paved roads leading to the lost city. The stones, each roughly 15 feet square, do resemble an ancient causeway or harbor wall, but geologists argue they're a rare example of beach rock fracturing naturally into geometric shapes, a process called jointing that occurs when limestone erodes along fault lines. Yet the Bimini Road's allure persists, fueled by anomalies that don't easily fit the natural explanation. Divers have noted stone anchors and what appear to be tool marks on some blocks, while core samples reveal layered construction techniques inconsistent with random erosion. Local legends speak of a great flood that swallowed a civilization here, echoing similar myths from the Azores to Japan. Unlike Doggerland's artifacts, which ground us in tangible history, Bimini's stones live in the liminal space between geology and mythology, a Rorschach test for how we view the past. Placing these two relics side by side reveals a fascinating dichotomy. Doggerland's tools are humble but irrefutably human, their purpose clear even as their creators' names fade into the abyss. Bimini's stones, whether natural or not, challenge us to question where history ends and imagination begins. One represents adaptation to environmental change, the other our enduring hunger for lost grandeur. Together, they remind us that the ocean doesn't just erase, it conceals layers of truth waiting for the curious to piece them together. Resting in the murky depths off North Carolina's Cape Hatteras, the wreck of the USS Monitor seemed destined to fade into legend until an expedition in 2002 made a discovery that shook the world of maritime archaeology. There, buried under layers of sediment and rust, lay the ironclad's revolutionary gun turret, perfectly preserved upside down like a forgotten time capsule from the Civil War. This wasn't just another relic, it was the very heart of the ship that changed naval warfare forever. A 9-foot-tall, 120-ton behemoth that had once defied the Confederacy's mightiest warships. Raising it from the ocean floor became a race against time, as saltwater corrosion threatened to erase this pivotal piece of history. The turret's design was nothing short of revolutionary. Before the Monitor, warships relied on fixed broadside cannons, requiring entire vessels to maneuver for a clear shot. But this rotating turret, the first of its kind, could pivot 360 degrees, unleashing fire in any direction with terrifying efficiency. Inside, the cramped space still bears witness to the crew's final moments. Dented plates where Confederate shells struck, tool marks from frantic repairs, and even the remains of 2 sailors found entombed at their posts. Conservationists at the Mariners Museum in Virginia faced a Herculean task stabilizing the turret. Years of electrolytic reduction, a process that slowly draws out corrosive salts, revealed astonishing details: original paint, tool kits, even a ghostly fingerprint pressed into the iron by a long-vanished worker. What makes the Monitor's turret so extraordinary isn't just its engineering, but the domino effect it set off. After its historic duel with the CSS Virginia at Hampton Roads in 1862, every naval power on Earth scrambled to emulate its design. The era of wooden warships ended overnight, and the turret became the blueprint for every battleship that followed, from World War I dreadnoughts to modern destroyers. Yet the artifact also tells a quieter story, one of human ingenuity under pressure. The turret's gears, cut by hand in a Brooklyn factory during a national metal shortage, show imperfections that speak to the breakneck pace of wartime innovation. Today, the turret sits encased in a climate-controlled tank, its rust-stained iron slowly revealing secrets as conservators work inch by inch. Among the most poignant finds was a perfectly preserved wool cap, likely belonging to one of the 16 crewmen lost when the Monitor sank in a storm. This relic, now too fragile to display, serves as a silent tribute to the sailors who manned this iron coffin, unaware they were steering naval history into uncharted waters. The turret's survival against time, tide, and the ocean's relentless hunger ensures that their revolution won't be forgotten. Off the coast of North Carolina, where the Atlantic's waves churn over shallow sandbars, lies the wreck of a ship that once struck terror into the hearts of sailors. Queen Anne's Revenge, the flagship of the infamous pirate Blackbeard. Discovered in 1996, this sunken vessel has yielded artifacts that peel back the myth, revealing the brutal pragmatism of Golden Age piracy. Among the most haunting finds, a surgeon's kit, its rusted scalpels and bone saws still sharp enough to hint at the horrors they inflicted. These weren't just tools for treating wounds, they were instruments of torture used to extract information or compliance from captured crews. The weapons pulled from the wreck tell a similar story. Crude grenades filled with gunpowder and scrap metal were designed to maim rather than kill, creating chaos during boarding actions. A brass navigational compass, its face scratched from rough handling, sits alongside a pewter plate bent by a musket ball, evidence of the ship's final battle in 1718. Even the ship's bell, encrusted with centuries of marine growth, bears dents from close-quarter combat. Together, these relics paint a picture of piracy as a calculated enterprise, where fear was as vital a weapon as cutlasses or cannons. But the most revealing discoveries might be the smallest. Lead shot molded in makeshift shipboard furnaces shows how pirates recycled materials to stay armed. Fragments of glass bottles, some still stained with traces of mercury, attest to the era's dubious cures for venereal disease, a stark reminder that pirate life was as much about survival as plunder. Even the ship's structure itself, with reinforced hull planks and extra gun ports, reveals Blackbeard's tactical genius. He didn't just command a ship, he engineered a floating fortress designed to intimidate and overpower. Historians once dismissed pirates as mere criminals, but Queen Anne's Revenge forces a rethink. The artifacts suggest a society with its own rules and hierarchies. A silver spoon, marked with the initials of a captured aristocrat, was likely repurposed by a pirate who saw himself as an equal. The mix of European, African, and indigenous pottery shards speaks to the multicultural crews that defied the era's rigid class systems. Blackbeard's reign lasted barely 2 years, but his ship's wreckage immortalizes the paradox of piracy, a world of brutality and fleeting freedom, where every artifact carries the weight of choices made in the shadow of the gallows. The ocean didn't just swallow his ship, it preserved a blueprint of rebellion written in iron, lead, and the desperate ingenuity of men who chose a short, fiery life over chains. High in the Andes, where the air thins and the sky meets the water, Lake Titicaca stretches like a mirror to the heavens, a place the Inca considered the birthplace of their sun god Inti. In the shallows of this sacred lake, divers have uncovered a haunting collection of offerings, miniature gold llamas no larger than a thumb, perfectly crafted shells from distant oceans, and the bones of sacrificed juvenile llamas wrapped in delicate textiles. These weren't mere trinkets tossed into the water, they were gifts to the gods, carefully placed during elaborate ceremonies that bound the earthly and divine realms together. The most striking finds are the gold plaques, each depicting deities like Viracocha, the creator god, his face framed by radiating sunbeams. These weren't displays of wealth but acts of communication, metallic prayers cast into the lake's depths to ensure fertile crops, military victories, or royal succession. Archaeologists note that many offerings cluster around the island of the sun, the legendary site where Intai first emerged, but it's the llamas that tell the most poignant story. Examination of their bones revealed they were all under 18 months old, their necks cleanly slit in precise ritual fashion. To the Inca, these animals were living bridges between worlds. Their sacrifice and submersion in Titicaca's icy waters symbolized a return to the source of life itself. What makes these relics extraordinary is how they defy time. The cold, oxygen-poor environment of the high-altitude lake preserved organic materials that would have vanished elsewhere. A bundle of woven reeds, still tightly bound after 5 centuries, held traces of coca leaves, a sacred stimulant chewed during ceremonies. Nearby, a stone box contained tiny silver figurines of women in traditional dress, possibly representing the Incas' founding mothers. Even the positioning of these offerings holds meaning. Many face east, aligned with the sunrise on solstice dates, a celestial calendar encoded in artifacts. Modern Aymara people, descendants of the Inca, still revere Lake Titicaca as a living entity. When researchers recovered some artifacts for study, elders performed new offerings to replace what was taken proof that the lake's spiritual power endures. These relics aren't just archaeological finds, they're fragments of a world view where every mountain, lake, and animal pulsed with sacred energy. To hold one of those gold llamas is to touch the fingertips of an empire that measured its devotion not in conquests but in gifts given willingly to the depths. Beneath the crystal-clear waters of southern Laconia, just off the coast of Greece, lies a time capsule from the dawn of European civilization, the sunken city of Pavloptri. Dating back over 5,000 years, this remarkably preserved Bronze Age settlement isn't just the oldest submerged town ever discovered. It's a perfectly frozen moment in time, its streets and buildings laid out with such clarity that modern divers can literally walk the same paths as ancient sailors. Unlike other underwater ruins swallowed by sudden catastrophes, Pavloptri slipped beneath the waves gradually, its slow submersion preserving an almost photographic snapshot of daily life in a world that predates the pyramids of Egypt. What makes Pavloptri extraordinary is its urban sophistication. The town's grid-like layout, visible even from aerial surveys, reveals a level of planning once thought impossible for the era. Wide main streets intersect at right angles, channeling foot traffic between 2-story buildings with distinct courtyards and workshops. Archaeologists have identified specialized zones, residential quarters clustered near freshwater springs, industrial areas with pottery kilns, even what appears to be a central marketplace with stall foundations still intact. This wasn't a haphazard fishing village, it was a carefully engineered hub of commerce and culture, its design rivaling cities built 1,000 years later. The pottery shards scattered across the seabed tell stories no history book could. Some bear traces of olive oil and wine, proof that Pavloptri participated in Mediterranean trade networks long before the rise of Minoan Crete. Others, incised with spiral patterns matching those found in distant Anatolia, hint at artistic exchanges across the Aegean. Most poignant are the everyday items: a child's clay doll, a loom weight still threaded with fibers, a cooking pot charred from its last meal. These humble objects transform Pavloptri from an archaeological site into a lived-in home, a place where families laughed, cooked, and bartered under the same skies that now stretch endlessly above their drowned world. Recent excavations uncovered something even more revealing: a complex water management system. Channels carved into the bedrock directed rainwater to communal cisterns, while terracotta pipes beneath streets suggest an early form of drainage. For a civilization that left no written records, these engineering feats speak volumes. They show a society attuned to sustainability, capable of collective problem-solving, a stark contrast to the simplistic image we often paint of Bronze Age cultures. Diving here feels like trespassing in a ghost town suspended between realms. Sunlight filters through schools of fish darting between crumbling walls, illuminating patches of mosaic flooring that once adorned wealthy homes. The sea, usually an eraser of history, has become Pavlovtri's guardian, cradling its secrets in the gentle embrace of the tides. As rising global sea levels threaten coastal heritage worldwide, this ancient town serves as both a warning and a wonder, a reminder that civilizations rise and fall, but the traces they leave behind, however submerged, never truly disappear. Buried beneath the Mediterranean's shifting sands off the coast of Sicily lies a relic of naval warfare so rare it rewrote our understanding of ancient shipbuilding, the Marsala Punic ship. Discovered in 1969 by amateur archaeologist Honor Frost, this Carthaginian warship, dating back to the 3rd century BC, isn't just a wreck, it's a tactical blueprint. Unlike the skeletal remains of most ancient vessels, the Marsala ship survived with startling detail, from its wooden hull to the very brushstrokes of paint marking its construction. What makes it extraordinary isn't just its age, but the way it was built using a shell-first technique so advanced it would dominate ship design for centuries. Most ancient Mediterranean ships followed a skeleton-first approach, constructing a rigid internal frame before adding planking, but the Marsala ship's builders worked in reverse. They meticulously fitted planks edge to edge, using mortise and tenon joints so precise they required no nails or glue, then reinforced the shell with internal framing. This method created a hull that was both lighter and more flexible, critical for surviving the battering waves of naval combat. The wood itself tells a story of empire: Lebanese cedar for durability, pine for elasticity, all sourced from Carthage's vast trade networks. Even the brush marks on the planks, numbering each piece like an ancient IKEA manual, reveal a level of prefabrication and standardization unheard of in its time. But this ship wasn't just an engineering marvel, it was a weapon. Its lower hull, lined with lead sheathing to deter shipworms, also served as a hidden defense. Ramming an enemy vessel would transfer the force evenly across the flexible shell, minimizing damage. Archaeologists found traces of a massive bronze ram, now lost to looters, but the hull's reinforced prow leaves no doubt. This was a ship built to puncture and retreat, the shark of the ancient seas. Even the ballast stones were strategic, positioned to optimize balance during high-speed maneuvers. Perhaps the most haunting discoveries were the personal ones. A soldier's sandal, still curled into the shape of a foot, lay near a stash of wooden pegs used for repairs mid-battle. A cooking pot, scorched from its last meal, sat nestled in the galley area, proof that this warship was a floating home for its crew. But the real treasure was a fragment of rope, its knots intact, preserving the very gestures of sailors who vanished into history. The Marsala Punic ship forces us to rethink Carthage's reputation as Rome's vanquished rival. This vessel, with its blend of craftsmanship and cunning, showcases a naval power that didn't just compete with Rome, it innovated. Modern engineers have tested replicas of its design, confirming what ancient accounts only hinted at: these ships could outmaneuver and outlast their enemies. Yet for all its brilliance, the wreck also whispers of defeat. Found with its mast step shattered, likely snapped in battle, it's a relic of a civilization whose maritime genius couldn't ultimately save it from the tides of war. In the icy waters of the South China Sea, a storm claimed one of history's greatest time capsules in 1752, the Dutch East India Company's Geldermalsen, a merchant ship so laden with porcelain that its wreck would later be called the Nanking Cargo. When salvage teams rediscovered the wreck in 1986, they didn't just find shattered china, they uncovered a floating gallery of 18th century globalism, where artistry met commerce on a scale that redefined European taste. The treasure, over 150,000 pieces of blue and white porcelain, most untouched by time, their cobalt hues still vibrant under centuries of marine incrustation. These weren't mere dishes, they were status symbols destined for the parlors of Amsterdam's elite, each brushstroke a negotiation between Chinese artisans and European buyers halfway across the world. What makes the Geldermalsen's porcelain extraordinary is how it reveals the mechanics of exportware, a term for goods specifically tailored to foreign markets. Dutch merchants provided Chinese kilns with wooden models of European tableware, demanding shapes like butter dishes and beer mugs unfamiliar to Asian potters. The resulting hybrids were astonishing, traditional willow patterns framing Dutch windmills, dragons curling around coats of arms for wealthy Hamburg patrons. Even the porcelain's weight was a compromise, thinner than Chinese domestic pieces to reduce shipping costs but sturdy enough to survive the voyage. This wreck wasn't just a cargo hold, it was a cultural laboratory where East and West silently bartered aesthetics. The auction of the Nanking cargo in 1987 sent shockwaves through the art world. Christie's sold the entire haul for $15 million, a record at the time, but the real value lay in the piece's provenance. Unlike museum collections often stripped of context, these items could be traced directly to their kilns in Jingdezhen and their intended buyers in Europe. Scholars noticed something peculiar. Many designs were seconds, pieces with minor flaws that European middle-class consumers gladly bought at discounts. The wreck thus rewrote assumptions about global trade, proving that even 4 centuries ago, mass-market globalization wasn't just for the elite, but the porcelain's journey didn't end at auction. Art historians studying the patterns identified a fascinating ripple effect. The Geldermalsen's cargo arrived in Europe just as the Rococo style was blooming, and its floral motifs directly influenced designers like Mason's Johann Gregor Herold. The wreck's plates and vases became accidental ambassadors, their Chinese iconography reinterpreted through Western lenses until the original meanings blurred. Conservationists working on the salvaged pieces faced dilemmas too: how to preserve glaze worn thin by seawater without erasing the patina of its ocean journey, a tangible record of its 3-century pause on the seafloor. Today, the Geldermalsen's porcelain sits in museums and private collections, but its legacy lives in unexpected places. Fast food chains mimicking Blue Willow designs unknowingly echo a shipwreck's influence, while contemporary artists cite the Nanking cargo as early proof of cultural hybridity. The ocean didn't just preserve a merchant's inventory, it safeguarded a pivotal moment when the world's aesthetic boundaries began to dissolve, one fragile plate at a time. On the rugged shoreline of Canada's Pacific Northwest, a stretch of tidal rock bears an image that has fueled debate for generations: the Thunderbird petroglyph. Carved by indigenous Kwakwaka'wakwa artists centuries ago, this massive figure depicts a winged creature with outstretched talons, its beak parted as if mid-screech. To coastal First Nations, the Thunderbird isn't just mythology. It's a spiritual force, a being so powerful its wingbeats summon storms and its gaze commands the seas. But what makes this particular carving enigmatic isn't just its symbolism, it's its placement. The petroglyph lies precisely at the high tide line, submerged twice daily by the frigid Pacific. Some researchers argue this wasn't an accident but a deliberate act of devotion, a way to feed the Thunderbird with the ocean's energy. Others suggest it served as a navigational marker, its visibility at low tide guiding canoes through treacherous channels. Either way, the tidal rhythm has worn the carving's edges into soft undulations, blending artistry with erosion until the rock seems to breathe with the waves. Half a world away, in Scandinavia's fjords, another form of maritime reverence lies beneath the surface: the sunken longships of the Vikings. Unlike the Thunderbird petroglyph's symbolic fusion with the sea, these vessels were practical tools claimed by it. The Roskilde Fjord in Denmark holds perhaps the most haunting example. The Skulderlev ships deliberately scuttled around the year 1070 to create a maritime barricade. When excavated in the 1960s, these wrecks revealed a stunning cross-section of Viking engineering. One, a sleek warship built with Irish oak, could slice through waves at 15 knots. Another, a broad-beamed cargo vessel, bore repairs made with timber from Norway and Scotland, proof of a nautical network spanning continents. What ties these relics together isn't just their aquatic connections, but how they embody their culture's relationships with the unpredictable sea. The Thunderbird carving acknowledges nature's untamable power through myth, a spiritual concession to the ocean's whims. The Viking ships, by contrast, represent humanity's audacious attempt to conquer those same forces through ingenuity. Both cultures understood the sea as both provider and destroyer, but where indigenous carvers immortalized that duality in stone, Norse shipwrights answered it with sweeping prows and overlapping planks. Modern science has peeled back layers of meaning in both artifacts. Spectral imaging of the Thunderbird petroglyph uncovered older, fainter carvings beneath, perhaps a palimpsest of generations revising their prayers to the waves. Meanwhile, dendrochronology on the Skulderev ships traced their timber to forests harvested during solar minimums, when colder climates produced denser wood ideal for hulls. Even in decay, these relics whisper secrets about how ancient peoples read and resisted nature's rhythms. The Thunderbird still watches as tides erase and renew its outline daily, just as the salts of Roskilde Fjord continue to preserve the mortise and tenon joints of Viking craftsmanship. One a canvas for the sacred, the other a testament to the pragmatic. Together they frame humanity's eternal dialogue with the deep, sometimes in reverence, sometimes in defiance, but always in recognition that the sea writes histories as surely as it swallows them. On the murky floor of the Solent, where the English Channel narrows to a treacherous strait, the wreck of the Mary Rose cradles whispers of Tudor England's golden age and its brutal realities. Henry Roman VIII, beloved warship, lost in 1545 during a battle with the French, was more than a naval vessel. It was a floating cross-section of 16th-century society, from the aristocrats on its decks to the common sailors in its belly. When divers finally raised its waterlogged hull in 1982, they didn't just recover a ship, they unearthed a time capsule, its artifacts frozen in the moment the sea claimed them. Among the most evocative finds, the longbows, dozens of them, some 6 feet tall, their yew-wood miraculously preserved by the silt. These weren't ceremonial weapons. Their grip marks and worn arrow notches reveal they were tools of war wielded by England's famed archers. Tests on the bow's draw weights suggest strengths of over 100 pounds, enough to punch through armor at 200 yards, but what's truly revealing is their placement. Clustered near the ship's upper decks, they hint at the archer's privileged status, positioned to rain death from above while the melee fighters below bore the brunt of close combat. Then there's the surgeon's kit, a leather pouch holding instruments that would make a modern medic shudder. Rust-crusted scalpels, a trephination drill for boring into skulls, and a syringe for bleeding patients, each tool a testament to Tudor medicine's grim efficacy. A nearby chest held herbs like lavender and chamomile, not just for healing but for masking the stench of gangrene in the ship's cramped holds. The artifacts paint a vivid picture of hierarchy even in suffering. Officers' wounds were dressed with linen, while common sailors made do with coarse wool. Personal items scattered through the wreck add haunting intimacy. A wooden backgammon set, its pieces mid-game, suggests leisure abruptly interrupted. A leather shoe, tiny enough for a child, hints at the presence of a ship's boy, likely an apprentice learning the ropes. Most poignant is the recovered skeleton of a carpenter, his tool belt still holding chisels and a wooden mallet, his posture curled protectively around his tools as the ship sank. But the Mary Rose's greatest revelation might be its culinary relics. Pewter plates engraved with noble crests were found near the officers' quarters, while ceramic shards from common mess bowls littered the lower decks. Even the food tells a story, remnants of salted beef and hardtack for the crew, but also exotic spices like pepper and ginger, luxuries reserved for the elite. These divides mirror Tudor England's rigid class structure, where rank dictated everything from diet to survival odds in battle. Conservators spent decades painstakingly restoring these artifacts, using techniques like polyethylene glycol baths to stabilize waterlogged wood. The results are staggering. A working replica of one of the longbows was recently fired, its arrow striking true after 5 centuries. The Merry Rose doesn't just showcase Tudor technology, it humanizes an era often reduced to portraits and palace intrigues. Every salvaged comb, dice, or rusted nail whispers of lives lived fiercely between the decks of a world poised between medieval tradition and the dawn of empire. The sea didn't just sink a warship, it preserved a microcosm floating in brine until we were ready to listen. Beneath the frigid waters of the northern Pacific lies a wreck that blurs the line between naval tragedy and criminal farce. The Russian cruiser Zhemchug, its shattered hull strewn not just with artillery shells but with thousands of iridescent pearls. This wasn't the aftermath of a heroic battle. It was the chaotic finale of a botched heist where imperial ambition collided with human greed in the closing days of the Russo-Japanese War. When divers first explored the wreck in the 1990s, they found brass casings and porcelain dinner plates lying side by side with mother-of-pearl fragments, a surreal testament to how desperation can twist even a warship's mission. The story begins in 1904 as the Zhemchug patrolled the Pacific, tasked with disrupting Japanese supply lines. But when word reached the crew of a merchant vessel carrying a fortune in unprocessed pearls, discipline unraveled. Naval archives reveal hushed orders from the ship's captain, Baron Ivan Ivanovich, to intercept the civilian ship under false pretenses. The plan was clumsy from the start. The cruiser's officers, more accustomed to artillery drills than piracy, bungled the boarding. Chaos erupted as sailors stuffed their pockets and ditched their posts, tossing pearls into storage lockers and even the ship's coal bunkers in their haste. Disaster struck weeks later when the Zhemchug, its crew distracted and undermanned, sailed blindly into a Japanese ambush near Penang. Eyewitness accounts from survivors describe shells ripping through decks where loose pearls still rolled underfoot, their luminous surfaces catching firelight as the ship burned. The wreck settled into shallow water, its treasure scattered like mocking confetti among the dead. Modern salvage efforts have turned the site into an archaeological paradox. Conservationists face the bizarre challenge of preserving pearls alongside war relics, their delicate nacre decaying faster than the steel around them. Each recovered shell tells a dual story of natural beauty formed over decades and human folly that destroyed it in minutes. The most poignant find, a single intact pearl lodged in the barrel of a deck gun, fused there by heat, as if the ocean itself sealed the bullet that doomed the ship's reckless crew. Naval historians debate the Zhemchug's legacy. Was it a cautionary tale of corruption or a microcosm of Imperial Russia's crumbling order? Either way, the wreck stands as a grim punchline to an empire's twilight, where the pursuit of fleeting wealth sank more than just a ship, it drowned an entire chain of command in disgrace. The pearls remain, their luster dulled but their lesson stark. Greed, like seawater, finds every crack in a ship's hull, and a nation's resolve. Deep beneath the glassy surface of Qingdao Lake, where sunlight filters through 70 feet of water like liquid gold, lies a metropolis frozen in time, the lost city of Xicheng, or Lion City. Unlike the ruins we've explored so far, swallowed by unforeseen disasters or rising tides, this one was deliberately drowned in 1959 when the Chinese government dammed the Xinan River to create a hydroelectric reservoir. What they submerged wasn't just another village, but a sprawling architectural masterpiece dating back to the Han Dynasty, over 1,300 years old. Named for the 5-lion mountain looming behind it, Xicheng was once a political and cultural hub, its streets lined with scholars' mansions, ornate temples, and arched city gates. Then, with the flip of a switch, it vanished beneath the waves, not destroyed, but suspended, as if sealed in a watery vault. For decades, the city existed only in local legends and government archives until 2001, when divers rediscovered its jaw-dropping preservation. The lake's cold, sediment-rich water acted like a natural conservator, shielding delicate carvings from wind and sun erosion. Descending into Xicheng feels like entering a myth. Towering memorial arches, their inscriptions praising long-dead officials, stand fully intact. Wooden beams in ancestral halls retain traces of vermilion paint, and stone lions flanking doorways still bare their teeth as if guarding against intruders. Most astonishing are the reliefs: dragons coiled around pillars, phoenixes mid-flight, even a three-dimensional carving of Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy, her features so sharp they seem freshly chiseled. Unlike the crumbling ruins of land-based sites, every detail here is frozen in its prime, down to the checkerboard patterns on courtyard tiles. Recent diving expeditions have mapped the city with laser precision, revealing a layout steeped in Feng Shui symbolism. The 5 gates align with cardinal directions, channeling cosmic energy, while the central axis points toward Wuzhou Mountain, a sacred geomantic marker. Archaeologists suspect the city's planners intentionally mirrored the constellations, embedding celestial maps in street grids. Some structures defy easy explanation, like a stepped platform believed to be an ancient astronomical observatory or a series of submerged tunnels that might connect to undiscovered chambers. What makes Xicheng truly unique is its duality, a place both lost and found, sacrificed for modernity yet resurrected by it. The same dam that erased it from maps created the conditions for its survival, silencing time's usual decay. Today, it's become a pilgrimage site for divers and historians, but also a sobering reminder of progress's price. As underwater drones capture high-definition scans, each new discovery blurs the line between preservation and paradox. The Lion City breathes in the deep, its stones whispering of dynasties and decisions, of how one generation's necessity becomes another's treasure, a civilization drowned, yet more alive than ever in the weightless embrace of the water. While Xicheng's submersion preserved it like a time capsule, the very act of revealing it to the world now threatens its survival. The lake's stillness, which protected carvings for decades, is increasingly disturbed by divers, pollution, and even the subtle shifts in water chemistry caused by climate change. Conservationists face a paradox: how to share this wonder without loving it to death. The Chinese government's plan to transform Xicheng into a sanctioned diving destination walks this tightrope, employing strategies as innovative as the city's own ancient engineering. One groundbreaking approach involves limiting physical access while expanding virtual exploration. Luxury submersibles with robotic arms, originally designed for deep-sea research, now ferry small groups of visitors on no-contact tours, their thrusters carefully calibrated to avoid disturbing sediment. Above water, a state-of-the-art museum displays 3D printed replicas of key artifacts, down to the algae patterns staining their surfaces. But the most ambitious project is a digital twin, an AI-powered simulation fed by millions of sonar scans, allowing anyone to dive through the city's streets in real time, watching as algorithms reconstruct how pigments may have looked when the paint was fresh. Preservation efforts extend to the lake itself. A network of sensors monitors everything from microcurrents to microbial growth, alerting scientists when human activity tips the delicate balance. Divers must undergo decontamination to prevent introducing invasive species, and flash photography was banned after studies showed algae blooms thriving in its aftermath. The most fragile structures, like wooden archways, now wear custom-made silicone coats that shield them from turbulence while remaining invisible to the naked eye. Yet the greatest challenge isn't technical, it's philosophical. Local communities, some displaced by the dam's creation, debate whether mass tourism honors their history or commodifies it. Archaeologists push for stricter access limits, while entrepreneurs envision underwater glass tunnels and luxury resorts. Striking a balance, officials have designated zones. The city center remains restricted to researchers, while outer neighborhoods welcome controlled diving. Even the revenue model reflects compromised ticket sales fund both conservation and oral history projects recording elders' memories of pre-flood Xicheng. As climate change alters rainfall patterns, Qingdao Lake's water levels fluctuate unpredictably, sometimes exposing upper towers before swallowing them again. These glimpses have sparked calls to partially drain the reservoir, but engineers warn that sudden reoxygenation could accelerate decay. Instead, adaptive strategies are emerging, like electrolysis systems that create protective mineral layers on stone surfaces. The Lion City's fate now hinges on a collaboration as intricate as its carvings, where hydrologists, historians, and even ethicists work to ensure that this deliberate sacrifice to progress isn't undone by the very attention it deserves. From the Antikythera Mechanism's celestial precision to the drowned streets of Xicheng, each of these 25 relics forces us to rewrite history's assumptions. They aren't just artifacts, they're insurgents against the timeline, proof that our past is far stranger and more sophisticated than textbooks dare to suggest. Consider the haunting duality of these discoveries: the Uluburun shipwrecks cargo, a Bronze Age globalization frozen in time, versus the Baltic Sea Anomaly's eerie geometry defying explanation. Or how the Thunderbird petroglyph and Viking longships, though oceans apart, both whisper humanity's ancient dialogue with the sea, one through reverence, the other through conquest. Even the Titanic's cursed treasures and Blackbeard's surgeon's kit reveal how easily glory tips into obsession, how the ocean swallows hubris as readily as it preserves humility. What unites these relics isn't just their watery graves, but their refusal to fit neatly into narratives. The Yonaguni Monument taunts us with its natural or man-made debate, while the Marsala Punic ship's engineering silences anyone who underestimated Carthage's genius. The SS Central America's gold didn't just sink a ship, it sank an economy, and the Jemchug's pearls turned imperial ambition into farce. Every discovery here is a grenade tossed into the archives, blowing open questions we didn't even think to ask. Who really mapped the stars first? How many lion cities lie forgotten beneath reservoirs? What nightmares unfolded in Queen Anne's Revenge's surgeon's quarters? These aren't static museum pieces, they're collaborators in an ongoing investigation. The Antikythera Mechanism still teaches engineers about analog computing, while Doggerland's humble tools force archaeologists to rethink migration patterns. Even failures like the Jemchug or the Monitor's turret became catalysts, one for naval reform, the other for underwater conservation science. The ocean, in its ruthlessness, curated this collection with brutal impartiality. Kings and pirates, gold and nod bones, sacred offerings and smuggled loot, all equalized by saltwater. Now it's your turn. Which relic lingers in your imagination? Is it the haunting hybrid statues of Thonis Heraclean, or the puzzle of Nan Madol's flying stones? Maybe the everyday humanity of Pavloptri's child's doll, or the cosmic ambition of Lake Titicaca's golden llamas? Dive into the comments and share your pick, then hit subscribe, because the ocean's vault is infinite, and we've only scratched the surface. Every new sweep of sonar, every storm-eroded shoreline, could unveil the next relic that upends everything. The deep isn't done with us yet.